Hello there, it's Tania Gabrielle, Wealth Astro-Numerologist. Welcome to Star Codes. This is the podcast where we look at an upcoming event in the stars and numbers, the astrology and numerology. In this case, it is a very exciting, huge event. In fact, this event, in the way it is emerging for us this time around, hasn't happened in many thousands of years, and that is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, in very early Aries. So Saturn moved into Aries on May 25th, Neptune moved into Aries on March 30th, and now they're ready to come together for the first time. They're only going to be about 12-13 minutes apart. Consider that 1 degree has 60 minutes, so it's pretty much a conjunction, though the exact conjunction happens in February of next year, 2026. However, this is considered a conjunction due to the almost exactitude. So Neptune stationed retrograde on July 4th. Saturn will be stationing retrograde on July 13th, 14th, and this conjunction is coming together between the 13th and 17th approximately of July. And they will remain together, traveling together, even in their retrograde, because they're both retrograding at a very almost concurrent time, into the year 2026. Now, in this case, when an actual huge conjunction, which hasn't happened at this degree for thousands of years, is about to come together like it is now, it is going to leave a major impact. So what we're going to do is look at this Neptune-Saturn conjunction from many angles, several angles. First of all, the Astrology Numerology Forecast, then the Geodetic US and world maps for the location of the Saturn-Neptune lines, then the AstroCartography US and world maps for the location of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction lines, and finally we're going to look at the last eclipse, because the last eclipse sheds light on where in the world the location will be that this energy will be felt the most. So we're going to look at where that last eclipse took place and whether it is close to one of those Neptune-Saturn lines in the world. And I can tell you it is. So we will discover where that part of the world is. So first of all, the conjunction is Saturn and Neptune in Aries. It is very deeply spiritual. You will feel compelled to act on what comes up for you because of the Aries location. Aries is about action, and it will stir your interest in the divination arts like astrology, numerology, or other spiritual subjects, and you will focus more on the gifts that you brought into the world when you were born and make them real and actionable. You also will be able to take financial flow and abundance more seriously because Neptune is a wonderful planet for opening up your heart to plenty, and Saturn makes it all real. So if it lines up with you energetically, which is obviously needing to be the case for financial flow to really be congruent, then you can really make a lot of headway on that front. And you also may meet people that are out of the ordinary. You know, Neptune and Saturn are really different kinds of planets. And so that means when they come together in a conjunction in Aries, you can feel your inner confidence and accept more of the extraordinary and the different, but you also can meet people along those lines as well. And you also long to expand your understanding of other cultures, other dimensions, having more of an awareness that is galactic, universal. So basically you're opening up a new perspective on reality that helps you make your dreams real. And you make them real by really tuning into your imagination. Neptune is so imaginative, so creative. It is connected to the arts and music, similar to Venus, but it's very expansive. It can reach way beyond where the mind would reach. So you can then go and imagine, and then Saturn comes in, that conjunction, and makes what you create real, and then Aries makes it actually happen. So by taking the initiative, you can become what you always dreamed of becoming. You can create what you always dreamed of creating. Now, you may experience a new beginning as well, because Aries is the first sign, especially in your spiritual life, deepening your faith. Maybe there's been confusion or disillusionment, especially since Saturn was previously in Pisces, which is a challenging sign. It's actually Neptune's home sign, but a challenging sign for Saturn. Now that Saturn's moved into Aries, it feels more at home there. So you can then reconnect after a possible confusing times with the reality of who you truly are, and move that energy into day-to-day life. Be of service in some capacity, use compassion. These are all Neptunian, and then put that into action to help others. So now we're going to move to the geodetic US and world maps for the location of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction lines. Now, just a reminder, geodetic maps are not astrocartography. That's ACR is a different mapping system in astrology. So we have two. Geodetic is an ancient way of doing world maps for countries. It's mundane astrology, though it can be used for personal astrology as well, and I do use it for my clients. But ACR is the one most people are used to, that you can discover easily online. But I'm going to start with the geodetic world map, and the geodetic world map has the actual signs listed, 30-degree increments around the 360-degree globe. So those are the longitude lines, and we have two sets. One goes north-south like the longitude lines, the other originate from the equator, and so they are a little bit more curvy. So, not to get into a whole lesson here, but every location in the world is connected to a specific zodiac sign and a specific degree in that zodiac sign. And finally, each of these lines is connected to one of the four angles in astrology, which would be the ascendant, midheaven, descendant, and IC, which is Imum Churli. And the very important angles are the midheaven and the ascendant. So let's go look at the geodetic forecast for Saturn and Neptune for both the US and the world. So if you notice on the US map, which I'm also including Central America, is that the Saturn-Neptune line goes right through Memphis, Indianapolis, close to Chicago, and New Orleans, and then it dips into the very eastern part of Mexico, southeast, and Belize, and goes through Guatemala, El Salvador, and then dips into the Pacific Ocean. Now, what is notable here, and I thank my listeners, my readers, for leaving comments, because one of you commented on one of my previous geodetic map forecasts that this line literally moves through where the New Madrid Fault is. And this is so true. I'm going to show you now. First of all, look at where the line is. I marked it for you. And then I'm going to bring up a map of the New Madrid Fault, and you can see it literally goes right through Memphis and then goes into Illinois and dips through Kentucky. And this is literally where the Saturn-Neptune line is moving through. So what does that mean? Well, it could mean, because Aries is the sign where this is happening, and this is a multi-year process, they don't actually leave this area where we are looking at now until 2027, that there could be an activation of this area of the US. So keep that in mind. And now let's move to the next geodetic map. This is of Europe, and this is the Saturn-Neptune line midheaven, MC line. So again, one of the very, very important double lines that we have. The first was in North America and Central America. The second is in Europe, of the AC and MC lines, the important ones. So this line is just east of London, east of Greenwich, because now the planets have moved slightly into Aries. And you can see that red, very narrow line that goes through London, Greenwich area. That is the beginning of Aries. Okay, so you can see we're in the beginning of Aries with these two planets. So look at where this double line moves through. It is literally currently west of Paris. It's going to be moving towards Paris, but then it's retrograding back over that Aries line that goes through London and then back, so back and forth. So it's over France, it's over Spain, and then it moves in towards Germany. So over the next 2-3 years, you're really going to see a major impact in those parts of the world. Really watch that part of the world, and notice too that the Western Mediterranean is impacted as well. And as you, I'm sure, have heard, the most extreme heat wave in terms of the water heating up has happened in that part of the Mediterranean, the western and central part of the Mediterranean. And Aries, where these two planets are, is a fire sign of heat. In fact, it's ruled by Mars, the planet of lava and heat. So here we have a huge increase of temperature, and it is moving towards the east, and that is a very, very rare event. Some geologists say it's a 1 in a billion chance of the Mediterranean being this hot in July. So we have to really keep our eye on that, because when Aries is activated, we can have sudden heat events. And when Neptune takes part, we can have rain events, flood events, even tidal wave events in other parts of the world that are connected to earthquakes. So we really need to watch these earth events now, because when the water heats up like this, it can cause tremendous rainfall and even natural disasters down the road. So let's keep our eye on that. So the next map we have actually looks at the astrocartography lines for Europe. So this is not geodetic, this is now the astrocartography lines. Look at where Neptune and Saturn are. They go right through that part of the Mediterranean that is over Crete. It is west of or east of Greece. It's moving towards the Middle East. And that's another area that is very much inflamed, you could say. So we need to watch that as well. Remember, there's a 500-mile reach with these lines. And when they're moving towards an area after the retrograde that's now starting, it's going to, again, heat things up, and already has. So then we're going to look at another part of the world. These are the Saturn and Neptune descendant lines, and we are back to geodetic mapping here. So the descendant lines moving through China. So you can really see China on the western frontier has those two lines going right through that country. And then let's move to the astrocartography map for the Saturn-Neptune lines for this part of the world, and notice that they are, again, the Neptune-Saturn lines are over China, again, very close to Beijing, Shanghai, the big cities in the eastern part of China. This is a midheaven Neptune-Saturn conjunction line, so it's very powerful, and it is in play now as well. And the next map we're going to look at is in the US. We're going to look at the astrocartography lines for Saturn and Neptune, and as you can see, they're off the coast. They're not as close as the geodetic lines, which were over the New Madrid Fault, but they are close enough to impact like the Boston area, even New York City. And look at Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, Virgin Islands. They are impacted, that whole area as well. So now we're going to look at the most previous eclipse prior to this conjunction of Neptune and Saturn. And we're going to look at the path. We're going to see where was it visible in the world, and then see if there's a Saturn-Neptune line. Because that area will be especially featured or intensified, because the eclipse is like a forecast for us energetically. So look at the most recent previous eclipse, a solar eclipse in Aries, the sign that Neptune and Saturn are conjunct in. It literally was an Aries solar eclipse. And where was it visible? Well, you can see it starts in the Atlantic, the visibility. It was a partial eclipse, so it was partially visible then in Europe and very northwestern Africa. And most of the lines curve through Europe. You can see they are dotted black and moving from below the Atlantic and then up towards Europe. And that's where the visibility was. And notice where I circled in red the Saturn-Neptune line, the conjunction. This is a midheaven line. This is a geodetic map. This is a very powerful line. We already looked at it earlier. And it's smack right in the middle of the visibility of the eclipse. So you can see that Europe will be very much impacted. In fact, this whole area of visibility is going to be impacted. Here's an up-close view. You can see the Saturn-Neptune lines there and the eclipse visibility area. Really, really powerful stuff. And finally, we're going to look at one more map. This one is for Hawaii. The Saturn-Neptune lines are now descendant lines. They're not quite as powerful, but they do go right through the Hawaiian Islands, literally just east of Honolulu. You can see they're going through Maui and then spilling out just west of the Big Island. And this definitely is notable as well. It could impact the volcanic activity on those islands, given that Saturn, Neptune, and even water events, Saturn, Neptune are connected to both, as is Aries. So as you can see, there is really so much going on here. Neptune, Saturn coming together. Again, event is so rare, so we really want to pay attention to it. So keep these maps in mind. These planets, of course, are moving. They're not at a standstill. I took a snapshot where they are now, but they're very slow moving, especially Neptune moves super slowly, only 165 years to go around the zodiac. So we are now in the midst of this first conjunction. The second one, the exact one, happens on February 20th of next year. So we'll revisit at that point. It will be at 0 degrees Aries after the retrograde. So right on the first degree of the zodiac, an Aries point, a cardinal point, that one's major. And so this is almost like a preview, but in a way it's not, because we just had all the outer planets move into new signs, 0 degrees of new signs, and this is the first big event since then. So you can see these lines really do make a difference, and some are fast moving, some are slow moving, but they all have an impact, and not only on world events, but also on you. Your birth chart is mapped on the world map, and it does show where your permanent positive places are and where your permanent, more challenging locations are, as well as the current cyclocartography, which is what we are looking at now, the planets moving through, and temporary locations that are wonderful and not so good for traveling and for moving. And I have a free, really fun masterclass on astrocartography. It's called AstroCartography, The Power of Fortunate Places, and you can watch it at positivelocations.com. It's free, and it goes over so many exciting parts of what astrocartography is, secret power of place, critical components that show your astrocartography profile that impact career and relationships and abundance and health and family, etc. We have lots of celebrity astrocartography examples, and a common mistake that people make when they do their own research and just look at the map without understanding the whole picture. And we also look at relocated charts, another important component. So enjoy that at positivelocations.com. It's instant access, immediately available. And I will see you in next week's Star Codes podcast. Lots of love.